We gather this evening to remember the little things that made a special place in our hearts, to remember those happy times when we laughed, and those times when our hearts broke as one. Contentment with life can be seen in his face, and happiness shines in his eyes. He'll share what he has with somebody in need, find time to help those in distress. He may not be famous, he may not be rich, but at living, this man is a success. As we release our balloons, we are reminded that we too are not traveling this road alone. We have each other's support and the help of God. You may release your balloons now, and then return inside when you're ready.
You know, funeral education is probably one of the most needed things that there is at this point in time, because there's so many people that have heard from a friend of a friend, or there's a lot of assumption out there on what you need to do and what you don't need to do. And you know what? We just want to send the message out and give you as much information as possible. Everyone's going here and there, and the odds of a family member or you dying away from the area from where you wish to be buried is more likely to happen now than ever before. Death is not something that someone thinks about before they take a trip, but it can happen. A helpful hint before you travel: go to your funeral home and get an identification card with your contact information on it. It will be helpful should you have an emergency and need help. Also, make sure that the family has an itinerary of your travel plans so that they know where you are. Buying travel insurance is also helpful. Also note, please, that delays, scheduling challenges, communication issues could cause a family anxiety. So be prepared and trust your funeral director to do whatever is possible to help you through this situation. You know, so you have to decide, you know, when you want to have a service, where is that going to be? Are you going to do it in a funeral home? Are you going to have it in the privacy of your own backyard with friends and family? Do you want to hold it in a pet cemetery? That's possible. Or do you want to hold it in a location, if you're cremating your pet, where those cremains could be scattered? You can buy an urn that's specialized. We do have some things up here on the keepsake table that will give you some ideas. So do you want, you know, you can pick something that's more personalized to the pet by name engravings. As a service, tell stories. You know, you can show video if you want to. Let me tell you what I learned about funeral etiquette in researching for this workshop. There really isn't any. I mean, there is traditional etiquette. There is etiquette that has passed through the cultures. But etiquette changes with culture, with time, with customs. Etiquette is really common sense. Condolences by email are only appropriate if you are not a close friend or relative of the family. That's email. So pick up the phone and do a quick call. You know, if you're out of town, if you're out of the area and you're not a close family member, you can send an email. That is appropriate. Not good to talk necessarily about the afterlife. That would be the responsibility of clergy or spiritual counselors. They'll do that. Don't bring up money at the funeral. Who's controlling the possessions? Who's paying for the funeral? You know, those aren't questions that, you know, you need to be concerned with. If you're taking your children to the funeral ceremony, ensure that before you take them that they can remain quiet through the service. Otherwise, leave the area so that there's no disruption to others. I believe in prearrangement. I believe every facet of prearrangement. There is, and in 3 years I've been at Hippensteel, I have never found, and I've researched really hard, you know, I've never found a downside to doing it. I've never had I've probably met 1,000 families, and I've never had one person say they felt worse as a result. Pre-plan your service. You hear peace of mind. You hear that you get to make your own choices. These things are all true. There is a peace associated with the fact that you can embrace death like you do anything else in your life. Family, college, jobs, trips. I know death, I'm not minimizing death at all, but it is the only absolute to living. So when people embrace that part of their life, they live better as a result. Funeral home, they need to gather personal information for the death certificate and obituary. That's the vital statistics, and we'll talk about that. When you pre-plan, you need to choose a funeral home. You need to decide on a charity to direct donations to. A lot of times in obituaries you'll see in the paper it'll say memorials given to so-and-so. It could be Heart Association, Diabetes, the Humane Society, it could be the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Uncle Joe's Trust Fund. I mean, it could be anything. So you need to be thinking about what speaks to you. You know, when people come in here, it's a different feeling in terms of traditional funeral service because people sit and gather, and it's kind of like having the lounge and the funeral service at the same place. Springvale or St. Boniface Cemetery, which is right down the road here. If you drive through, you'll see all forms. You'll see tall ones, short ones, big ones, square ones, They have no requirement. If you go to Tippecanoe Memorial Gardens on the west side of town, then you'll see that all of their markers are flush markers into the ground. That is a requirement that they have there. And this is a Times New Roman type font. See how easy it is to read that? Again, this is a frosted box. This is the type of font that if you didn't have it in a box, you could just put lettering on the granite itself. This is a base, okay? On an upright marker, you have to have a base with it. Okay, you can't just put this on the ground, all right? But on an upright marker, if you look at, this one is a polished 5 sides. You see that this is slick, clean, polished on all sides. There are so many folks that ask, do you do this? Do you do that? Is this available? Is it not? What is Simplicity? What is the Tribute Center? So we felt that to start the year off with a bang, we wanted to educate everyone to what type of services that we provide. You can log on to your computer and watch the funeral live. If you're in Iraq or Afghanistan and your grandfather passes away and you can't make it back for the funeral, you can log on to your computer and watch your family's funeral. Options, options, options. There's a lot of different things that we can talk to you about, give you some ideas that maybe you didn't have. And there's an experienced staff there to assist you through the process. And really, the #1 goal is your satisfaction.
What is an advance directive? Well, the legal definition that you will find in a law dictionary perhaps is a set of instructions given by an individual specifying what actions should be taken in regard to his or her health in the event that the individual is no longer able to make health care decisions due to illness or incapacity.
Communicate, communicate, communicate. There is never a downside to doing that. There's always a good time, pick the right time to do that, but it is important. Always ask for, wherever you decide to make your funeral arrangements with your funeral provider, make sure that you get extra copies of the arrangements that you make for your kids and give them a copy. You may not even have to have a conversation, but just hand it to them. I remember my parents decided they were going to open a trust, and that they were going to tell us that they've made these decisions and this is what they want the kids to do and all this stuff. And it was on Christmas Eve, and we were like going, what the heck? Merry Christmas, But you know what? It was the most priceless gift I think my parents could have done was to set us down and say, here's what we would like to have done. So we all felt better, and we all have the expectation now.